Welcome to the book celebration for K-State's wrestling legacy, stories, stats, and personalities that shape the sport in Kansas and beyond. My name is Thea Rademacher, and my company, Flint Hills Publishing, is honored to publish this important book by Patrick Kelly. When I read Patrick's manuscript, I was blown away with the amount of work he put into this project, and now I'm very proud to include it as the 88th book in Flint Hills Publishing's catalog. But before I introduce Patrick, I want to thank Greg German, the man who keeps the Flint Hills Publishing website running and looking good. He's always willing to help me with tech issues, and I had a few questions on the formatting of Patrick's books. All those statistics, the tables, it was crazy. And I also want to thank Flint Hills Publishing author Lynn Murphy, who, since we've done online events for 5 years now, has helped me behind the scenes, making sure everything runs smoothly. I encourage you to check out her books and her important platforms that are sharing such positive messages with the world. Her website, Women Who Push the Limits, and her brand new podcast, Demystifying the Transgender Journey. But now, let's turn to the man of the hour. In addition to being a published author, Patrick has a very impressive background. He was a collegiate wrestler at the University of Iowa, where he was coached by Dan Gable. He finished his career at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, under the guidance of Mike Denny. Pat has been an educator and coach for over 30 years. He works at Seaman High School in the Directed Studies program, helping students successfully complete their high school educations. Retired from high school coaching, he now focuses on middle school wrestling programs and was instrumental in establishing the girls' wrestling programs at the middle school and high school for the Seaman School District on the outside of Topeka. He also produces and hosts a wrestling podcast for USA Wrestling Kansas. Patrick reports he is happily married to a very patient woman, Lisa. He spent a lot of time the last 3 years working on this book, and that they have 3 amazing grown children. We've seen a lot of Kellys that have shown up here for your event, Patrick. Pat, thank you for being here, for letting Flint Hills Publishing publish this amazing book. And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. And thanks for everybody that jumped on tonight.
Well, Pat, we're going to get right in. I want to ask you some questions. Okay. So the first one, pretty obvious. Tell us what this book is about, and why did you focus on the K-State wrestling program?
Well, to answer the question real succinctly, the book is about honoring those that were part of the program and in preserving the program by accurately documenting a complete picture of the statistics and the people that were involved in the program. And the why, unfortunately, my college program, University of Nebraska at Omaha, I started my college career at the University of Iowa, then transferred to the University of Nebraska at Omaha. That program was dropped, and it was a powerhouse program in the Division II ranks. And so that's kind of always been a special place in my heart for those programs that are no more. And, after, as you say, I retired from high school coaching, a little more, I've always done journalism kind of things, even personal writing, family writing, that kind of thing. It's just been something that I have really enjoyed. And when I started delving deeper into K-State, not being a native Kansan, I heard little bits about the program. But when I started delving into it, I couldn't stop. I literally couldn't stop doing the research for it.
Well, tell us a little bit about your writing process, because for those of you who haven't seen the book, contained within it is a 20-page table, which is why I needed to call Greg up on the phone to give me some help with that table. The amount of work that you went into that is just mind-boggling to me. So tell us about your writing process, your research, the photographs. I'm a real stickler that you had to have permissions, which you did. You're poster boy for getting permissions. I'm very proud of you for that. And how you put together all those statistics.
Yeah, well, great question. So the writing process, I think, for this book involved first studying the stats, studying those individuals that were the most accomplished, and then chasing the stories behind those stats. And it took some efforts, some unusual kind of efforts, because we're talking a long time ago. The program itself has been dropped for 50 years. So some of the people and personalities are no longer with us. And so, piecing those stories together, literally thousands of newspaper articles I went through, and then made some personal contacts. So that was really again, I would just describe it as chasing those stories behind the stats. And as far as the large table that you talk of, I really have to credit you for your book, Authors Beware, which goes through. I guess I'm sorry. I'm talking specifically about the permissions for the pictures, because I was just going about my merry way, gathering things, getting things from here and there. And then when I went through your book, I was like, oh, I need to be a little bit more professional about this and getting permissions, and that actually became kind of a game of people not calling you back or not emailing you back and making it a goal that this week I'm going to get a hold of that person. And really it ended up that I got more than enough pictures and things that didn't make it into the book. I'll put them on the book's Facebook page, kind of as we go. Cause there's some great pictures that didn't make it in there, but really good ones that did. But again, I have to credit your input from your book on that. So to the table, it really became a project onto itself.
Explain this mysterious table, what it contains.
It contains over 700 names of individuals that were part of the Kansas State University wrestling program. I call it a historic roster, that appendix of the book. 700 and I can't remember how many unique names. And then it lists the years that they're involved in the program. And I really was into making sure that all the information in here was primary sourced. In other words, I can't just go by something that's not documented that somebody was involved in the program, because I looked up enrollment records, newspaper accounts, yearbooks, some personal accounts, and tried to, as thorough as I could, getting, sometimes spellings of names were even different, and making sure that was all correct. And again, it was almost a mini project within the book project. But the driving force behind that, though, my father wrestled at Iowa State University for 2 years, back in the Hugo Autopotic era at Iowa State, before he went and served in the Korean conflict. And he was not a star. He was in the lineup some, but I feel like wrestling was really important to what he did as a father, as a husband, and as a business leader. And a lot of those skills that he gained from that, from wrestling, were important in his life after. And so to me, it's sort of honoring him by, not everybody that went through the K-State program was an All-American or was a star, but they had an important role in the history of the program. And I think that K-State wrestling, impacted them as well. So I wanted to that was really my driving force, and I wanted to honor everybody that was part of the program as much as possible.
Well, one of the things that became clear to me through some of your pictures that did not get into the book, and I'm glad you're going to share them on Facebook, was that you brought a lot of joy to some very older men. The pictures that I could tell that was a great connection, not only for you, but for them as well. So I hats off. That was such a cool thing to do.
I think the street, it's definitely a two-way street with that, because I was, so enhanced by the people that I met, and I consider a lot of them friends now.
Oh, that's terrific. So when you were doing your research, did you uncover any surprises? Because like in all good sports stories, there's some really good human interest things in this book. It's not just for wrestling fans. It's got some great human interest stuff.
Yeah, I almost think we'd have to have another whole nother podcast or whole nother launch for that, because there were so many things. In fact, when I go back to how this became a book, it really wasn't at the outset. That wasn't my original goal. I originally just was looking through and researching and just kind of for a hobby almost. But it got to the point where it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't know this. And it got to the point where there was just such a rich breadth and depth of information that a friend of mine, Mike Chapman, who did the foreword for the book, I've gotten to know him through the years. I knew I couldn't go home to Lisa and tell her about how excited, because she wouldn't really probably care that much about some of this stuff that I find, really.
Yeah, be careful.
but anyway, so I gave Chapman a call just randomly one afternoon, and I said, Mike, you won't believe the things that I'm finding about the Kansas State University wrestling program. Did you ever know about this guy? And at a point in the conversation, he just paused. He said, Patrick, you have a book here. And from that point on, that became the focus, and didn't look back from there.
Now, it's true. You spent 3 years researching this. I mean, and you did you traveled. I mean, you spent a lot of time, didn't you?
Yes, I certainly did. I made friends with the people in the archives of the fifth floor of Hale Library for sure at K-State. But it was really a labor of love for sure.
That's terrific. Well, so for you personally, what are the best things that come out of this project?
For sure, meeting the people that I met. And again, I consider these people friends. Tom and Bill Keller, Wayne Jackson, Richard DeMoss, D-Guard, just a few people that I've kept in touch with, and hopefully we'll continue to keep in touch with long after this book project even. Just real awesome people.
That's terrific. Well, Pat, will you share a reading from the book and tell us why you chose this particular reading?
Yeah, well, we're sitting here on Christmas Eve, or should I say, in the wrestling community, it's the night before the NCAA Division I wrestling tournament takes place in Philadelphia. Exciting time for everybody in the wrestling community throughout the nation. And the passage that I picked is at the end of the book, end of chapter 8, and it's to kind of set it up. The United States is in a really golden age of wrestling right now. The success that we're having on the national and world level with girls wrestling, the awareness of where we're at, and in an 8-month period, as I was writing this particular section, we had John Smith retire from Oklahoma State. We had David Taylor get beat in the Olympic trials, and then he becomes the coach at K-State, Oklahoma State. The success that we had at the Olympics, that all happened in that time. So how I start this passage is, during that same time period, Lindenwood University in St. Charles, Missouri, completed the final season of its men's wrestling program after beginning the transition to NCAA Division I in February of 2022. After 34 years, which included a solid run in NCAA Division II ranks and 5 NAA national titles, the program is no more. Preserving Lindenwood's stats and stories must be a priority, or they will be lost forever. Time moves on. If not recorded and archived, future generations will miss out on the history that was a significant part of the lives of sons, fathers, grandfathers, families, and supporters. A solution has not been found. As this manuscript goes to press, Cleveland State University announced that the 2024-25 season would be its last. Its history dates back to 1931, when it was known as Fenn College, and the program has been in continuous operation since 1962. Earlier in the 2024-25 season, Campbell University in Boozy Creek, North Carolina, announced its plan to drastically scale back support of its Olympic sports programs on campus. The wrestling program, founded in 1968, has been a model of a mid-major doing things right off the mat and getting results on it. America itself needs more, not less, wrestling programs to test young people and give them the ability to persevere through setbacks and hard work and dedication to a cause. If the current funding model continues to move forward, it likely won't be long before other similarly positioned programs will be counted among wrestling's casualties. If that happens, those histories, like those at Lindenwood, Campbell, and Cleveland State, must be preserved. I hope K-State's wrestling legacy will keep the Kansas State University wrestling light flickering for future generations to appreciate.
Thank you, Pat. I think when we first met, I don't know if you were surprised at my enthusiasm for the topic, but I have a cousin who was a high school state champion wrestler in the 60s, and I was, as a little girl, fond memories of going and yelling for David at that tournament. So, I came into this, topic with some enthusiasm. And just last weekend, you were at the Kansas Kids Wrestling.
Right.
Tell us about we were talking yesterday, and you were just lighting up when you were telling me what was your impression about that event that was held in
Well,
Topeka last weekend.
I mean, it's always a great event. Just to see that many wrestling people in one confined area is just really pretty impressive. And it just it keeps it just keeps going and getting bigger every year. And I told many people that stopped by, one of the things that I made sure I said was, this very tournament that you're at is because of K-State Wrestling. They started that tournament and on 2 mats in Manhattan, back in the 60s, and it's grown to what it is today. So it's really, really pretty impressive.
And even when I was in high school and my kids were in high school, even I never thought about girls participating in the sport. And so you were telling me you saw like little girls on up through high school who were there participating.
Yeah. Yeah. This year they did the tournament separate days. So Friday was dedicated just to girls, and Saturday and Sunday were to the boys. And they paralleled the tournament. So they did the same sort of fanfare that they do for both of them. And the parade of champions is what I was talking about. Is they parade them in by age groups and on into the arena, and it was just striking the numbers, and also to think that these little girls wouldn't have had that opportunity just 5 years ago.
Right.
Now
right.
it's the demand is definitely there.
That's cool. Well, in your prologue, you mentioned similarities between coaching, competing, and getting this book published. Please explain.
Yeah, I'm going to try to use a general example and a specific example. I think as a coach or as an athlete, you do all this time preparing and maybe even preparing for a specific opponent or a specific team in the coaching realm. And when you look back on a performance, if you've nailed it or if there was room for improvement or you just didn't perform well. Same way with writing. I think that when you get something down, like the passage I just read, I felt like that took some development. It took probably weeks to put together. But when I can look back at it even now and say, you know what? I said what I wanted to say, and I think I nailed that passage. I think it's powerful, and I think it's concise and clear, and with some creativity in it. And that's exactly what coaching and competing are all about. It. So I think it was the parallels are striking. Really are. It's competitive. It's demanding. Long hours. You have setbacks and victories within. People that again, you find somebody that's really enthused about it. You have another person that won't get back with you, and this kind. So it's a lot very similar. A specific example. Wayne Jackson is somebody that I've known, through the years, but really got to know well through this process, and hope I continue a relationship with him because he's just a terrific person. When I was interviewing him, I think it was initial interview, maybe the second time I was down at his place, but he kept mentioning this assistant coach, this young assistant coach at the University of Washington. And I won't go into too many details, but read chapter 7. You'll just be blown out of the water by his hitchhiking venture to Seattle, Washington. But the assistant coach that helped him out, and he didn't even know the guy's name. He couldn't. But when I left that day on my way back to Topeka, I had it in my mind that if that person is still out there, I am going to find him. Because I could tell it meant something to Wayne, and he's the type of person that you want to work for him. I can see why his program is so successful, why kids would run through brick walls for him. He just has that something about him, and so I made that a goal to try to find Mike D'Antuono, and through another series that would probably take another 20 minutes to explain. It's just a fun story though. But I found him living in Southern California. And I called him, and one of his first questions was, well, how in the world did you find me? And I had to explain the whole process I went through and the weeks and weeks of work that put into it to find it. But it was worth it in the end. And it was another one of those things where it was sort of a victory. It was something, a goal that I pursued, and deliberately and systematically worked to solve and found him and got him and Wayne together on a Zoom call this summer. And it really enhanced the book. Without Mike's input and recollections from 50 years ago, it wouldn't have been as solid as what that chapter is.
Well, Pat, I think you brought the same grit you brought to the wrestling match. I think you brought to writing. So congratulations on that. Final question from me. What do you hope people will take away from their experience with reading this book?
Well, really what I hope that they would take away is just an appreciation of the richness of Kansas State University wrestling, and hopefully see that there are, fun, interesting, and compelling stories in programs like K-State that weren't necessarily marquee programs back when they were coming through. Even all the way through the program, they were they were behind Oklahoma State and Iowa State and those programs. But there are just as interesting, compelling, and important stories at Kansas State as there were at Oklahoma State, at Iowa State, at Iowa, or those places. So I really hope that's what they take back from it. That is that the importance of the Kansas State University program is as important to them as Penn State is to their followers.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to put on my publisher hat now and talk about how you can help support this really important project. It takes a huge commitment, clearly, to write a book like this. It's a leap of faith that it will find its audience. So here are some things that you can do to help Patrick promote his book, so that this book that shines such a great light on Kansas. You can buy the book. It's available on Amazon. Bookshop.org is a website. If you haven't checked it out, it's a way to support indie bookstores. You go on the site, indicate what bookstore you want to buy it from. Could be any bookstore in the United States, and then they get the credit for the purchase of that book. Also, the books are available wherever books are sold. You can ask for it at Barnes & Noble, any place you're going to be able to get this book. How can you help promote the book? How can you help Pat after he's worked so hard? You can leave a review on Amazon. That is so helpful. Google will also accept reviews, or you can send a review to either Pat or myself, and we'll be able to use it as well. Word of mouth is so important in promoting a book. How many times have you talked to your friend? What are you reading now? Or do you know any good books? That can really help get the information about a book out there. Also, Pat, clearly, I'm always so impressed when I work with teachers because they are amazing, amazing speakers. Pat's enthusiasm and his ability to be an entertaining speaker makes him, a wonderful person. If you're involved in Rotary, you have a book club, or if you have any ideas on how he can promote the book, please let us know. Okay, now, time to put an author in the hot seat. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat, or if you want to come online, it'll just be your voice. You won't be on camera. Let us know, and we can get started asking some questions. I see we already have. Oh, you guys are doing great. All right, let's see. Tom Keller wrote in the chat, they're planning a K-State wrestler reunion this fall in conjunction with K-State's varsity K-Club annual gathering at a home KSU football game. This is very exciting news. There are 423 documented K-State wrestler alumni that wrestled from 1948 through 1975. Tom, you got a lot of good info here. Tom and Bill Keller have an uncle, Elton Keller, that wrestled at K-State in 48 to 49, who was 96 years old. We hope you'll be able to attend the reunion. Oh, that's awesome. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, that would be.
You're going to that reunion. We'll get you an invite, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay, we have another question. Do you think K-State will reinstate its wrestling program?
In a word, no.
Oh.
I think that, as I say in the book, any armchair athletic director can't really understand the enormity it would be to reinstate a program at a place like K-State, a major institution. You'd be talking, again, I don't want to go too much into it because it's in the book, but just the cost of facilities, of coaching, of an RTC, and I think Gene Taylor, the athletic director at Kansas State University, who I have quoted in the book, says it best, that would we want just a program, just to have a program, or do we want a program that will compete with the best in the nation? And Kansas State would want a program that competes with the best. And to do that, it has an enormous price tag. So I don't think it's feasible. And in this day and age, also, if you were to do a startup, more than likely you'd have to do a men's and a women's program. And again, the cost would be just enormous.
Okay. Well, sad, but that's the brutal truth, right?
But
Okay.
it is sad, but it goes back to that theme of preserving the history and honoring those that were a part of it, and that's my goal and that's my mission.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Well, we have another question. What role did K-State play in shaping wrestling culture in the region?
It was the apex program as far as the state of Kansas. The kids tournament that I talked about, the high school state tournament that was started in 1930. Beal Patterson was the reason that started. He pushed that, and it was hosted at K-State. So it's just without question that K-State's role in the grassroots development of wrestling in Kansas was just instrumental in the region. I was talking with somebody the other day about this, that just having a D1 program, an NCAA Division I program in your state, there's side benefits that you really don't foresee. Like a national team from a different country maybe is coming in to compete, and maybe they're doing going across the country. Well, they're going to want to stop at places that have established regional training centers that have people around there. So if you had a D1 program, that might draw those kind of people there. So I think that its role, though, in the state of Kansas is just undeniable, to the point where I don't really think this is a K-State book specific. I think it's more a state of Kansas wrestling book, really.
Okay. Well, we have more of a publisher question. Let's see. Dan wants to know how many books you'll bring to the Britt West Hancock Wrestling Alumni event this fall. We'll figure that out. We'll bring plenty, right?
Yeah,
that's always the answer.
I plan on renting a trailer and having to bring a whole bunch of them.
You've got a lot of nice comments here. Ray said, "Great book, Pat. I'm looking forward to the NCAAs, and because of your book, I'm going to follow Nebraska due to the Pat Patterson connection."
Awesome. And also follow Illinois. He was 18 years there as well.
Okay. Somebody wants to ask us a trivia question. I'm not going to get it. All right. This person was a Topeka West teacher when I was going to Washburn Rural, 79 to 81. Two men in your book are married to sisters. Both men wrestle at K-State, and the team colors were purple and gold. Do you know who that is?
Well, let's see.
Elmer purple and gold wouldn't that be Arc City? No.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me take a look at that.
This is hard. We may have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe put the answer in the chat, Robert. Okay. Steve wants to know, are there any plans? Okay, Lisa, cover your ears. Any plans for Volume 2, University of Nebraska program, maybe? University of Iowa. Are you going to keep writing?
I'm wondering if he means University of Nebraska at Omaha.
Great.
Yeah. Lisa's actually brought that up. That might be a good idea. So, so maybe she can help me with it. But no, you definitely can't take the pen away from me. I mean, I can't not write. Yesterday, for example, I'm working on an article to recap the NCAA Division II tournament for Win Magazine, and I spent over 4 hours at the library just working on that one article, and time went like that. So it's just, yes, I will continue to write. Whether there's another book in me, I don't know. Writing a book is a lot of balls to juggle. As far as, you've got the writing, that's just part of it. Just a part of it, and just the process of getting it published, and then this kind of stuff after to promote it. But I don't know. I absolutely loved the product from beginning to end. I'm still loving it. So.
Well, if you need any editing help, I know a few editors if you want some help for your articles.
Yeah.
Well, a final question. I mentioned that you have a podcast, and I know it doesn't necessarily go year round. It kind of depends on the season, right? So do you want to tell us about that podcast or how people can find it?
Yeah, it's pretty loosely done. I just started this, gosh, almost 10 years ago now, just as something I took to the board. And so the USA Wrestling Kansas podcast is kind of designed to lead up to the biggest national tournament in the country for freestyle and Greco-Roman at the end of the summer. So it kind of Fargo. So it leads up to that. And then the other one, the KWCA, Kansas Wrestling Coaches Association podcast, kind of leads up to their fall clinic, which is named after Fritz Noah, by the way. But there are some thoughts of trying to do that more kind of year round, get different kind of guests in there. But Podomatic is where it's hosted. And the one that I do for the Kansas Wrestling Coaches Association actually is linked on their website. So the KWCA website. And then, when I put them out, social media, the KWCA Twitter or X account pushes it out, and I think on Facebook as well. But that's something, promotion wise, probably need to do a little bit better job of. But get some pretty good or guests on there, and just trying to recognize the kids that are doing good things.
Mm-hmm. That's terrific. That's terrific. Well, Patrick, what is the name of your book Facebook page?
It's just the name of the book, K-State Wrestling Legacy, where you'll find it. Yeah.
Okay. And then also you have your author page on the Flint Hills Publishing website, and you could always reach out to Flint Hills Publishing, or I'm sure Pat, you could send him a message on Facebook to get in touch with him. Patrick, I want to thank you so much, not only for, I'm always so impressed with the work that teachers do. You have such passion, your continued involvement in the sport of wrestling, not just for boys, but for girls as well, for the work that you do to help your students so they can graduate, and the great example that you set for them to be a lifelong learner, to keep doing your homework. I just think you just set such a great example, and it's an honor to have your book be the 88th book in the Flint Hills Publishing catalog. And thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. We're going to put a recording of this of tonight's event on the Flint Hills Publishing YouTube channel, and I'm sure we'll be sharing it all over Facebook and other social media. So thank you so much for coming, Patrick. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for everybody taking the time to come. Thank you very much, and thank you, Thea.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.